Hello, hello, Jason. Hello, Joshua. Happy Tuesday. Hello, Craig.
Ah.
Hello, I'm going to relocate myself because someone's deciding to bark. What's up? What's up?
What's up? Holy cow. Well, it's about that time.
For an energy drink. We just won't tell Heather.
Oh, there we go. Cribs tour, Carly's house.
Yep. Welcome to my crib. I hope you enjoyed the nice hallway. But yeah, I switched my rooms this weekend. I put my guest room in my office, and now my office is my old guest room. A lot of moving things. Definitely
Switcheroonie.
definitely unnecessary, but I think it's better. So.
I don't know what that is. Oh, all right. How's everybody doing today?
It's Tuesday and not Monday.
No, so confused. So confused.
Yeah. As soon as I see this go to 1 o'clock, I know Heather's gonna pop on.
Yeah, she's a 1 o'clocker.
Yeah.
Right on the money.
Fan-fucking-tastic. Hope you are all well. Yes. It's Tuesday, so can't complain.
Oh, I know. A short week.
Yeah, for real though. Well, with you, yeah, yesterday.
Yeah, and then Friday, I'm going to Savannah on Friday too.
Oh, nice.
So
That should be fun.
yeah, so I'm only kind of doing stuff Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Nice.
So really short week.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
There she is.
1 o'clock on the money.
Sorry, I was little. I was trying to be 101 Heather today.
Not 1 o'clock. Got close though.
I made it. I'm here.
Birds Cookies. Is that right in Savannah? I'll look for that.
Dean's like food? Yes.
Are you traveling, Dean?
Yeah, I'm going to Savannah this weekend.
Is that in Florida?
No, Georgia.
Oh, I've never. Oh, no, that makes sense. I don't think I've ever heard of it. So
Yeah. Speaking of cookies, when we were at Disney Springs the other day, I went to try to go to that Gideon's cookies or bakery. There was a 4-hour wait.
Pardon me?
Yeah.
what?
I was like, damn.
That's freaking crazy.
Yeah, the lady's like 3 hours. There was two girls like outside with the iPads, and they were like checking people in and stuff. And I went up there, and the lady's like, yeah, it's 3 hours and 50 minutes. I'm like, no, thanks. I'm like,
I will pass.
yeah.
No cookie is worth that wait. Well, maybe, but not.
No, I would say
no. Cool. All right. Well, that's enough cookie talk. So might as well get into protein. Today's topic is protein, and once again, we have Dean and Heather, and they're gonna drop their knowledge, and so I'll give it to you, Heather.
Yeah. So before we get into protein powders that we offer, protein products that we offer, I wanted to cover just protein in general, because I think a lot of people, it is an essential nutrient that you do need for various functions, whether you train or not. You need to get enough protein in throughout your day. So obviously some of our products can help you hit those goals. Cause I know we probably get, the most common thing is like, when people start working out or getting more into health and fitness is, man, I can't reach my protein goal, or man, I didn't realize I needed to eat that much protein in order to recover and repair my muscles and stuff. So the importance of protein cannot be understated. It's absolutely crucial to get enough in, and you'll see a significant difference if you go from having a very low protein intake to a moderate to high protein intake, whether that's energy, satiety, recovery, performance, things like that. So one thing I just want to touch on the key functions of protein in general, what they do in the body, because a lot of people think, oh, if I eat this much protein, I'm gonna turn into like Ronnie Coleman, or I'm gonna be a bodybuilder. It's like there's a lot of things that protein does, especially when it comes to just like, your body. So it helps with repair and maintenance. It helps with energy. It helps with hormones. It helps produce different enzymes that your body needs to break down other nutrients and other things. It also helps with transportation and storage of different molecules. And then antibodies, which antibodies are huge for your immune system. So, I mean, there's proteins in your body doing various things. And although we eat protein, they also get broken down and turned into other proteins. So there's certain proteins that your body makes in order to serve different functions. So I can't stress enough, like I said, the importance of protein. And then essential amino acids. So we all know that companies sell essential amino acid products. I mean, we do ourselves, we have the grind, and then also branched chain amino acids. And as we covered, I think in last week's webinar, branched chain amino acids are the same thing as essential amino acids, except for there's 9 of them. So there's 9 essential amino acids your body cannot produce, so you have to get them from food or supplements. The branched chain amino acids are included in that 9. So just to recap on that, the branched chain amino acids, the names of them are leucine, isoleucine, and valine. Those are the 3 branched chain amino acids, but they're also, like I said, in the category of essential amino acids. So to cover the rest of the 9 essential amino acids, you have methionine, histidine, cysteine, threonine, phenylalanine, and lysine. So your body cannot produce those. You need to get them from somewhere. That's why they're called essential amino acids. Like I said, supplementing with them is not enough. I mean, you got to get them from your diet. So, eating different foods that are high in protein will supply you with these amino acids. So the difference between protein and amino acids is that a complete protein is amino acids stringed together, whereas just amino acids in a supplement is the free form amino acids. So they're kind of broken down. That's why like a lot of people will take essential amino acids during their workout, because they're broken down, they're more easily absorbed and digested. So just think about it that way. It's kind of like pre-digested amino acids, I guess you could say that.
Yeah, you'll hear real quick too. Like that's what you hear people say, like amino acids or essential amino acids are essentially or technically like the building blocks of a protein.
Exactly.
Because they make up protein.
Yeah. So like when you strand them all together, then you start to get these complete proteins. And it's a good topic to cover complete versus incomplete proteins as well, which we'll get to in a second when we talk about protein sources, because not all proteins created equal, especially when you're talking about vegans, vegetarians, and things like that. You got to be more careful with where you get your protein from. So in general, and I'm sure Dean has heard this many times or said this even when people ask him, is how much protein do you recommend per day? And normally we give out a ballpark number about a gram per pound of body weight. Now this only won't apply unless if you're severely overweight. So if you're 400 pounds and you have a lot of weight to lose, then you don't need to hit 400 grams of protein. But maybe try to hit your goal weight. So if you're 400 pounds, you want to get down to 300, maybe you can do 300. It just depends. So, but if you're relatively lean, you're active, you're in shape, whatever you want to say, doing a gram per pound of body weight is just fine. I don't know if Dean, you want to comment on that at all?
Yeah, that's kind of what I tell people. And like we talked about, I think on one of the other webinars, it's like sometimes you get people that get super technical and they're like, well, just do 1 gram per lean body weight or, but the average person doesn't know what their lean body mass is unless you went and got tested somewhere. So that's kind of like my rule of thumb. And what industry wide, you usually hear people say 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Like Heather said, it's just something easy to go by. You will hear, if you're trying to like pack on weight, pack on mass, sometimes people go to like 1.25 or even 1.5. So, somebody that might, like Heather was saying, say you're 200 pounds and you're already pretty lean but you're trying to get a lot more muscular, you'll see people that will go to like 300 grams or even higher. But, I think a lot of studies have came out as well. And even talking with retired pro bodybuilders that I've talked to, they now themselves say they wish they knew they didn't eat as much protein as they did back in the day. Because I think back in the day, it was I talked to some that were eating like 400 and 500 grams of protein a day, which now they look back on, they laugh themselves, or like, it's totally uncalled for, not needed. But like I said, like doing like 1.5 grams or something like that, if you're really trying to like pack on a bunch of muscle, you see that a lot in the industry. But for the average person, I agree, just what Heather said, like 1 gram per pound is plenty, I think.
I would also say to go over different types of goals. So whether you're bulking, cutting, maintaining, whatever it is, 1 gram is still works. But like Dean mentioned, you might want to go higher if one, you're bulking, you're trying to pack on mass, or if you're cutting, because protein is more satiating. So normally the higher protein you consume, you get more full. So then you're not as hungry and starving. And so that helps, and also helps with muscle retention when you're trying to cut weight. So that's another thing I just want to mention, is that some actually go higher when they are cutting. They go up to that 1.5 grams because they're getting leaner and they're also trying to retain their muscle mass. So, but it's hard to say because you don't want to crank your protein so high that you are cutting back on carbs and fats unnecessarily, because then you're also, protein isn't necessarily an energy source. It can be used as an energy source, but your body doesn't prefer it. So if you can cap your protein at a certain amount and then adjust carbs and fats as needed to lose or gain weight. That's kind of
that's what I was going to say. Like, if you look at almost any, no matter what diet you do or nutrition plan across the board, the one thing that usually stays the same in most people's diet plans or whatever, nutrition plans, is protein. You always see fats and carbohydrates are usually the variables that people tend to adjust. So
I also want to mention too, and I don't know, Dean, how you structure your day, but I like to, this is more like optimization techniques, but if you're really serious about like your health, fitness goals, whatever it is, try to have different protein feedings throughout the day. So like, in my opinion, a meal is only a meal if it contains a good amount of protein, and a good amount of protein, in my opinion, is 20 to 40 grams, depending on your weight, depending on how many meals you eat and your protein goals. So if my goal is, I want to hit 120 grams of protein, I may eat about, 20 to 30 grams of protein per meal, and I may have 4 meals or something like that. So that should be your goal. And most of that protein should come from high quality protein sources, some protein sources that are considered complete. So when I talk about a complete protein source, it means it contains all the essential amino acids that you need. So incomplete protein sources are things that, sure, they have protein in them, but they don't contain all the essential amino acids, or they're significantly lacking in one essential amino acid. So you're not getting everything you need. And that especially is true when you look at trying to gain muscle, because you want to spike muscle protein synthesis. That just means the process of building muscle. You want to inhibit muscle protein breakdown, which is obviously the breakdown of muscle. So that is your goal when you're trying to consume different protein intakes or at different feedings throughout the day. So, and the problem is too, I know some people do these like OMAD diets where they eat 1 meal a day, or they do intermittent fasting, or, I'm just going to shove all my calories towards the end of the day so I can feast. That's definitely not ideal, especially when you look at trying to retain muscle or build muscle, because your body has no way to store protein, whereas it can store fats and carbs very easily in your body, right? You store fat as body fat, you store carbs in your muscle, your liver, even you can convert carbs to fat and store it as fat. So your body has plenty of mechanisms to store carbs and fats. It does not have any mechanisms to store protein. So in order to get, it's nice to get, or it's a good idea to get protein evenly spaced throughout your day, every few hours, whether that's 4 to 5 hours, 3 to 4. I think it's ideal for recovery. I don't know if Dean, if you want to touch on that at all.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Especially now with so many crazy diets or fad diets or whatever. Some people love certain ones and some don't, but like I personally would rather eat more times throughout the day, and then I do the same thing. I'll kind of spread out the protein as much as I can evenly. Of course, not always going to be evenly, but I'm like your same train of thought, where it's like I want to try, for me anyways, every meal I want to have at least 30 to 40, 50 grams of protein. That way too, like say I only end up eating, maybe 4 to 5 times a day. If I'm getting in 40 to 50 grams of protein each meal, then I'm hitting like 200 grams of protein, which is what I always kind of shoot for. But yeah, I mean, I just think, and it's like I forgot what webinar we talked about. It's like when we were talking about kind of like snacks and just being prepared. It's like even that type of stuff. It's always better, I think, to grab for protein first than something else. And that it was one we went over about being prepared and stuff like that, and having stuff on hand that's more protein based as opposed to just grabbing something that's just processed sugar or carbohydrates or something like that. Because like you said, you a lot of times you store that as well, where the protein is probably the most important thing as far as keeping you full, retaining muscle, building muscle and stuff like that.
Yeah, and especially when you look at snacking, because it's like always that comment. I remember back in the day, it used to be so like trendy where it was like, oh, I have an afternoon snack and then I get these like crazy cravings and I'm so starving, and then they reach for like the vending machine and it's like the nachos or something. And like that stuff will go through you and you're gonna be hungry in an hour because it's not providing you with much nutrients. It doesn't have any protein, has no fiber. So that's where like different protein bars got really popular and different protein shakes and things like that. And now you see protein in everything. So I think it is starting to become more popular to have protein, but also there's things you should watch out for, whether you're grabbing a protein snack or not. And that's, like I said, things we'll talk about. So before we move on to our protein products that we offer, I just want to go over some high quality protein sources. It's a little bit trickier for me since I'm not a vegan or vegetarian to come up with these, because for the most part, you'll see complete protein sources are animal based. So whether that's chicken, beef, eggs, dairy products like Greek yogurt, milk, cheese, whey protein, casein protein can fall under those because they're from dairy, turkey, fish. For a vegetarian, maybe something like beans and rice or quinoa, you got to like find complementary protein sources. That just means that when they combine, they give you enough essential amino acids to make a complete protein. So, but if you had them separately, you wouldn't get enough. So things like vegan protein powders are nice because normally these companies do that for you. I do want to preface this because if you see a protein powder, a vegan protein powder that has only one protein source, it's probably not a complete protein source. You're kind of losing your money, or you're not getting the most out of your money. So look for blends in that case, whereas dairy, it doesn't really, you could get just a single source and it's fine. So obviously vegan, vegetarians, like I said, you need to look at combining protein sources, but for the most part, these should be staples in your diet. And that's how you should tailor your meal plan. Like Dean and I just mentioned, every meal should have a good amount of protein in there, like 25 grams plus, depending on how much you need. So like, you don't need, like, I'm not going to eat 50 grams of protein in a meal because I just don't need that much. But Dean may, because he needs more protein because of his body size. So that's another thing to just preference, but 25 grams for most people is going to be enough. And it depends how many times you eat per day too. So yeah.
Yeah, that, like, for anybody listening, and that's the easiest thing to do is figure out how much protein you want to eat per day. Let's just say it was 200 grams a day. And then obviously figure out how many meals a day you're going to eat, and then just, divide by those meals and then try to at least shoot for that many grams per meal. I mean, just that way you can spread it out and like we were saying, stay full longer and keep you satisfied.
It's also a good idea too. I know some people like to train fasted, but if you can eat protein before and after your workout, it's not absolutely necessary, but I think it helps a lot with performance and recovery. So if you can schedule that and make it work, I think that would be ideal scenario. Like I said, this is more like splitting hairs, like things that people will do if they really want to maximize their results. But that's why you see certain competitors doing these things, because they're trying to optimize what they're doing. They're not eating just 2 meals a day, because they'd be sucking, that's for sure. So, okay. So going over products, we'll start with farm fed, and Dean can kick it off with what farm fed is and maybe some of its key features and whatnot.
Yeah, farm fed is our 100% whey or grass fed whey isolate. I mean, to me, it's one of the cleanest protein powders out. As far as some of the key features to that as well is the digestive enzyme blend we have in it, which we were probably one of, if not the first, one of the first in the industry to start putting digestive enzymes into the protein powder. So protein powders in general, industry wide, have came a long way from years ago. Like they used to not taste good. A lot of them tasted like chalk or whatever. So I think a lot of people still even have that mentality, that maybe haven't had them in a long time, but they've came so far. It's incredible how good some of them taste. But even still, especially with whey products, sometimes people had stomach issues, bubble guts, gas, whatever. They just didn't digest them very well. So Axe and Sledge, when we came out with farm fed, we actually put a digestive enzyme blend in that, which has done wonders. Because I've, especially when I started here at Axe and Sledge, that I used to get that the most as far as feedback. I would have females, males messaging me that started using farm fed, and they would say just that. Like, I used to have so much many issues with protein powders, or they would mess my stomach up. And like, this is one of the first proteins that doesn't do that. So I think that's probably, to me, one of our big key features that we have Do you want to go over some other key points with it?
Yeah, I think I just want to mention is, and I did this on a different podcast, actually, just about protein powders in general. Not all protein powders are created equal, because a lot of people try the cheapest thing on the market and then they're like, man, that thing messed me up, or it tastes terrible, or there's no way. And then they just count out all whey proteins or all protein powders. The biggest thing with ours is we use a whey protein isolate, of course. So that means it's 90% protein by weight. So that means there's very little to no lactose or sugar or fat. So very lean protein powder, as Dean mentioned. And there's other brands that will use whey protein concentrate. And not to say it's a bad protein source, but it tends to contain more carbs and fats and more lactose. And people who are sensitive to lactose will have issues with it. So although those products may taste really good because they have extra carbs and fats and sugars, they might not be so friendly to your digestive system. So if you have tried a protein in the past and you're like, man, that thing, I just couldn't take it. Like I've recommended farm fed so many times, and then people are like, man, I can actually take this. It tastes good. It doesn't, mess up my stomach. I can do 2 scoops at a time, stuff like that. And like Dean mentioned, we do have the digestive enzymes, not because the protein needs it, but a lot of times people take protein powders along with other foods, and the digestive enzymes help you break down various foods that you're eating. So whether you throw a farm fed in a smoothie and you have some fruit in there and you have some fats and stuff like that, it'll help you break down everything. And the better you can break down nutrients and absorb them, the better you can use them. Because if everything's just passing through you like nothing, you're not using any of those nutrients. So just don't count out protein powders if you haven't tried like some of the higher quality ones on the market. I know they are pricier, but it's for a reason. And especially now, I just want to speak on this. Protein prices are increasing, unfortunately. And that's something that we're going to have to adapt to, because we're not going to switch our protein powder and use a lower quality source just to keep the price the same. Unfortunately, we can't do it. We're not raising it just to make more money. We're raising it because the market demands it. And I think people understand that, because it's been happening to every other industry.
Yeah.
But especially with protein powders in the supplement industry, you see so many brands increasing their prices.
Yeah.
Because
Hasn't it been, I think, obviously I'm very good friends with another owner of another supplement company. I think he told me that he's had to raise his prices 4 times already this year. Has it been
Mhm.
like that many hikes with the prices of protein powders? Because everything that's going on in the world that we see with the prices everywhere in every industry, it's like we're getting hit as well. So yeah, it's like
Yeah.
protein and is one of the main things. So,
Yeah, and I mean, we try to eat the cost as much as possible, but there is a point where like, hey, like protein powder already has like very low margins. So it's like, when it starts to double in price, there's something that we have to do. And like I said, we're not going to compromise on the quality of the protein. So at the end of the day, like I said, give it a try. It's definitely a product that does really well for us. You can use it in various ways. You don't have to just take it post-workout like everybody else does. It is a good idea, like I said, especially when people are rushing to get to place and get their workout in, to have a shake on hand, especially if you're like, oh, I'm a snacker, it could kill your cravings and help you stay on track with your diet, things like that. But I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, you need protein powder. You don't, but a lot of people can use it and benefit from it. And like I said, it tastes good. So, how do you use it? I mean, in general, you mix it with 6 to 8 ounces of water and you drink it, but I think there's a lot of other ways and recipes and things out there that gets a little more creative. I couldn't tell you the last time I had a protein shake, but I use protein powder every day. So
yeah, it's protein powder is just that. It's like you'll hear everybody, and we'll tell you, even though we sell a protein powder, it's like always better to get your protein from whole food sources if you can.
Mhm.
However, majority of people can't. Like that's the issue with it. A lot of people say they just can't eat that much food, or they can't get that much protein in per day. And let's just say, for example, I always use 200 just because it's an easy number. But like, so if you're shooting for a goal of 200 grams of protein a day, but you're only eating about 150, then literally to make a shake, 2 scoops of farm fed, I mean, now you're at 200 grams. And it's something that takes literally 2 minutes to make, or like Heather said, I mean, you can mix it in anything else and get that protein. It's just a very quick, good, clean, quality source to hit your protein goals, to help you get to your ultimate body goals, composition goals, or whatever. There's something else I was going to add to what you were saying, but I forgot what it was now. Damn it. I don't remember.
I just want to cover while Dean thinks about what he forgot. Flavors and allergies. So we do use obviously whey proteins derived from milk. So if you are allergic to milk, and being allergic to milk and allergic to or like lactose sensitive are 2 different things. So if you have a whey allergy, you probably know it because you literally can't drink milk at all. Whereas someone who's lactose intolerant, lactose sensitive, it just depends on how much lactose is in the product. And as I already mentioned, very minimal. And since we have a lactase enzyme there, you could probably do just fine with it. So allergy wise, though, we have milk. We also use a little bit of MCTs in our protein to make it just a little bit more smooth. And that comes from coconut. So that's falls under tree nuts. So if you are allergic to tree nuts, but for the most part, all of our flavors are gluten-free besides the small cookies and cream. And we have some cool flavor collaborations with Dippin' Dots and with strawberry ice cream and banana split ice cream that we've actually partnered with them to create those flavors, which means that no other company can use those flavors. It's our industry exclusive flavors with them. So we are working on obviously new flavors in the future. Who knows what they'll be, but we're always kind of looking at it since it's a very popular product for us. Yeah, so.
I know what I was gonna say.
Anyway.
I was just gonna bring up the point too, that like because it's an isolate, it's a much thinner, finer protein as well. So like some companies have a blend and they have 2 or 3 types of protein in there, what's like concentrate and whey and whatever hydrolyzed.
And even like thickeners.
Yes, yeah, they even have some thickeners in there as fillers.
Mm-hmm.
So some protein powders may be really thick, where not just ours, I'm saying in general, ours is a whey isolate. Isolate across the board is usually a much finer, thinner protein powder. So you don't need a ton of water. It's going to be pretty, it'll almost dissolve, I would say, kind of in a sense, and it makes it pretty thin. And then as far as like, I'll just touch on too, like using it, like you said, you use it almost every day, but you don't drink shakes. And so I still drink shakes. I still do shakes quite often, but I'm a big, throwing it in like Greek yogurt or whatever and pancakes. You could make a thick pudding with it. So there's a lot of different stuff people do to use protein powder instead of just drinking shakes. So I just want to touch on that too.
Definitely. Okay, moving on to homemade. People ask all the time, like, what's the difference between farm fed and homemade? So farm fed is a protein powder, homemade is a meal replacement. So think about it as if you sat down and eat a meal and all you ate was chicken, it's similar to just drinking a protein shake. Whereas meal replacement is like so it's got your carbs, it's got your fats, it's got your micros. That's like a full-fledged meal. So I always say that farm fed could be, I guess, made into a meal replacement, but you'd have to add different things like fruit, some fat, some oats or something like that to make it like a full-fledged meal. Whereas homemade's kind of like that pre-made meal for you. And it's great for on-the-go people who are at the office, traveling, even to like a lot of our bodybuilder athletes like, Keon, Martin, Jeremy, Vincenzo, they love using homemade as like kind of like way to add more calories and more nutrients and more, and easily because they're trying to push the calories so much that they need that. But it is just a well-rounded meal replacement. It's got healthy carb sources in there. When you look at meal replacements, you got to look at the ingredients because a lot of them are filled with a bunch of crap that you don't really want in your body. We use a sustained protein blend, which means helps keep you satisfied for longer. It's not a whey protein isolate. There is some whey protein in there, but it's got some other sources like egg and beef and pea protein and brown rice protein that help keep you sustained and fueled for longer. And then also we have high quality carbohydrate sources, which is really stands out to me is the oats and the sweet potato, because most other brands just throw maltodextrin and call it a day. And that's like a simple sugar that's gonna significantly spike your blood sugar and just leave you feeling like crap in an hour. So we also put some fibersol in there, and fibersol helps with obviously it's a fiber source, great for gut health and digestion, stuff like that. And fiber is very satiating, so it also helps sustain your hunger. And then also we put digestive in here, which is found in farm fed as well, to help you break down those nutrients. So at the end of the day, for homemade, just a full-fledged meal replacement. It's got some MCTs in there for healthy fats, and it's really well balanced. That's another thing is if you're that type of person who likes to eat high protein, moderate carb, lower fat, that's homemade. So it's pretty cool. It's got 46 grams of protein, around 48 grams of carbs or so, and then around 6 grams of fat. So that's almost like a perfect meal for someone who is in that range. And it's also obviously easy to transport. It tastes great, easy to digest for most people. But if you are very sensitive to lactose, I wouldn't recommend homemade just because of the whey concentrate that's in there. But for most people, it should be fine. So Dean, I know you use homemade quite a bit. So
yeah, Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to add. It's just what you said. It's that's one of the biggest questions we get even on the Facebook pages is, some people that don't know what's the difference between farm fed and homemade. And like Heather said, I mean, farm fed is just what we said it is, just a whey protein, where homemade, you're getting your carbs and fats in it as well. The other thing is, I know there's a lot of females that a serving for homemade is 2 scoops, which, like Heather said, is around 460-ish or something calories, or they're all a little bit different, not much though, the flavors, but and then you have 40 something grams of protein, 40 something grams of carbs, and like 6 grams of fat or whatever it is. But I always tell people, and I know a lot of females do this, is they just take 1 scoop. So it's still, a decent little meal replacement. If you didn't want to if you wanted something like that, maybe you like the flavors and then you want something that has protein, carbs, fats all in there, you could definitely still use that. I just don't want people to, like, especially females, I just don't want you to get scared when you see like, oh, that's a lot of calories, or that's a lot of protein or carbs for 1 meal or something like that. You could easily just get that and just do 1 scoop and you just cut everything in half. There's times where I even do that myself sometimes. If I'm just using it almost more as like a snack, I'll just throw 1 scoop in there and drink that if I don't want to have all that or something. So
yeah, and to play off that too, if you want to turn this into a mass gainer, I would add, whole milk, some more peanut butter, maybe some more carbs through oat flour, things like that, because some fruit, frozen fruit, like we have different flavors that you can make into a smoothie and stuff like that, because then I don't want to say never, but I don't really see us coming out with a mass gainer, and most mass gainers in the market are just filled with like super cheap carbohydrates, super cheap protein sources. And when they actually test them in the lab, they don't even test the specs. So the majority of mass gainers in the market are just total crap. That's why we went the meal replacement route, especially since we tailor a lot, our brand caters to a lot of blue collar workers who are on the go, busy, they're working 12 hours a day. They want to get a workout in as well. It's great to have a product like this on hand that's going to prime with like quality nutrients, in addition to all like the macros they need. So if you do want to turn this into like a weight gainer shake, there's ways to do it. You just got to get a little creative. And as Dean said, like if you want less calories, just do 1 scoop. I mean, it's very flexible dosing, just because what we recommend doesn't mean you have to do that, but it's so flexible. So, and then flavor wise, we have blueberry muffin, peanut butter cookie, which came out last year, lemon cream pie, double chocolate brownie, sweet potato pie. And I think that's it.
Yeah.
And then allergy wise, like I said, a little more allergies with these because we added a little bit more ingredients. So there is milk, egg, soy, and tree nuts. So if you're allergic to any of those, then stray away from it. Unfortunately, you can't take it. But yeah, so the next one we're going to move on to is the homemade bars. So obviously this is a play on homemade, but in a bar form, I guess. So it's a great snack for some people. It could be a meal replacement depending on where your calories are at. But similar to the homemade, we want to stick with like whole foods, real ingredients. We wanted to cut most protein bars, like I just mentioned with most like mass gainers, they have such crappy ingredients in there. You look at the back and there's like 30 ingredients and half of them are from chemistry class. And you're like, I don't even know like what I'm doing and like what I'm putting in my body. So we wanted to keep it as simple as possible and easy to digest. So that's why we went with like whole food based ingredients, whether that's peanut butter, cashew butter, almond butter, honey, high quality protein sources like whey protein and egg protein, things like that. So it is a whole food based bar. So, but they do taste really good compared to some others on the market, and they are gluten-free, naturally flavored and sweetened. So that's the big hitters with those. And then Dean can talk about, you want to add anything else for that?
For the bars, yeah, I mean, I always say the same thing you just said, like, especially with the bars, the thing that stands out for me the most is the ingredients. Most bars you can pick up, like Heather said, have 30 to 40 names and you can't pronounce probably 95% of them. You don't even know what they are. So if you look at the back of any of our bars, there's roughly maybe 11 to 13 ingredients, and you know what they are. Like you can actually pronounce the names and you know what they are. The sugar also in them is from honey, which is a great source instead of just cheap.
Actually low glycemic.
Yeah, and it's just
so like some people are like, they see the sugar and then they freak out because they're like 14 grams of sugar, but then they like look at their latte that they drink every morning and it's got like double. But oh well, it's Starbucks, that's good for you. But
yeah, so it's just that to me is the main thing is like the ingredients, and you know actually what you're eating, what you're putting in your body. The homemade bars too are great. Same thing. It's like depending on your calories and macros for the day. I mean, they're something that's great for a snack in between meals. And then if you're on lower calories, are great. You can actually use as a meal. So it just depends on what your goals are, what your macros are for the day and calories and all that stuff. So definitely something good, just something good too to have on standby for me. It's like I'd
Oh, I just
rather,
want to,
I'd
yeah, I
much
just
rather
want,
grab a, go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead.
I was
No,
saying
go.
I'd much rather grab a bar than like a bag of pretzels.
Yeah, yeah. Just like we talked about, a lot of people will ask like, well, how do you keep like high protein choices, whether you're on the go or you need a snack or whatever. I mean, protein bars are for the most part good, but like I said, they're not all created equal. So you need to opt for healthier choices, especially on that market. Even like something like beef jerky or things that are a little bit leaner in fat and carbs and higher protein. That's what you want to go for. But I want to follow back up to homemade. We didn't mention like how to use it. You can use homemade anytime of the day. It's not like a post-workout thing. It can be if you want it to be. It doesn't have to be, really anytime. And then just, you can mix it as a shake with water or milk, or you can just use it. A lot of people use it in recipes because it's got the oat flour in there. It's great for baking. So it's very versatile, like other products are that we have. So the homemade bars and homemade, you can eat those anytime. It's actually great if you are training early in the morning, you want to get some nutrients in, maybe having a homemade bar, or even having a scoop of homemade would give you the carbs, protein, and fats that you need to fuel your workout without feeling too heavy or too full. Dean, how do you normally use homemade?
I'll use it. I mean, with that, I have baked with it quite a few times and done pancakes with it.
Mhm.
And then, but a lot of times I'll use that more as a shake as well. And I'll use it as kind of just like a meal. I mean, normally lately I've been doing, 2 full scoops and just using it as a meal any time of the day that, like you said, whether it's later in the day or for me, it seems to be a little bit more early. So it might even be meal 1 or like meal 2, just depends if I'm home or what I'm doing. But I usually do like, for the way I mix it though, I usually do like half water, half almond milk.
Mhm. I think it's great for traveling too. So if
Yeah.
you guys are going to be traveling, going on, we're going to go to Arnold pretty soon. So if you're going on trips and stuff like that, it's great to have these on hand, just to keep you on track. So, I mean, these are all tools that you guys can use to stay on track. It's not like you have to take these products daily. You can if you want to, but none of those are necessary. And then going back to the homemade bars, allergy wise, same. It's similar to homemade. We have milk, egg, peanuts, or tree nuts, depending on what flavor. So that's a big thing. Like our peanut butter chocolate chip has peanuts, but our double chocolate brownie has almonds. So there's, tree nuts. So it depends on maybe what you're allergic to. It's just, you'd have to assess that, maybe even ask your doctor if you have a nut allergy to see. So obviously we wouldn't want to have any allergic reactions, but just keep that in mind. So yeah, I think that's pretty good roundup for protein in general. And then we can cover some questions if we have any.
Yeah, the easiest thing too is if you are wondering, like you have this big jug of protein powder or the homemade, it's like the easiest thing is just to throw them in like a Ziploc bag or like a little lunch bag. You scoop it out and you have 1 scoop or 2 scoops. And then you can just take that with your shaker cup and then grab whatever, water or almond milk or whatever you want to mix it in, wherever you're at. So it is super easy. Don't think you have to like lug around a protein jug or anything like that. And I'll touch on real quick, not that I have to, but the thing you talked about mass gainers, because we get that question a lot too, and that's Heather's 100% right. Almost all mass gainers are garbage because they're filled with so much crap in them, and that's the same advice I give anybody. You could turn farm fed into a mass gainer if you want. You could turn homemade into a mass gainer. I would 100% always give people the same advice. It's like, take a good quality protein source like that and then add whole foods to it that you know what they are. So you could throw, especially in a blender, you could throw oats in it, peanut butter, a banana, whatever, and create the more carbs and fats and protein, whatever. I'd much rather have somebody do that than buy just like a crappy mass gainer.
Yeah,
But
no, I agree.
yeah, but go ahead. Oh yeah, so go ahead. I think if you want to move on to any questions.
One of them was somebody asked, is there like a certain time you should be taking protein? I think you kind of covered it, Heather, with saying like what meals you have protein in, but their question was, is there a better time to be taking protein or not?
Like protein powder, or just like protein in general?
Probably protein powder. It just said protein, so we'll go with
Well,
powder.
okay.
Talking about
Yeah, I guess, like I said, it's really common to take protein powder post-workout. I think the only reason is because the industry and the way it's marketed is that, okay, you just dropped your dumbbell, go grab your protein shake and drink that, or else your workout's wasted. That's definitely not like a thing, but it is important to, within an hour or so after training, to get some protein in. So whether that is whole food, whether that is a protein shake, whatever it may be, it's important to get protein in after your workout. It just doesn't have to be immediate. What's nice about whey protein isolate though, that's why people like to drink it post-workout, is that it is very quickly digested and absorbed so that it can start the recovery process faster. So that's one of the pros to it. But like I said, I think it's much better to look at protein, whether it's protein powder or just protein you're eating through real food, is to, like Dean mentioned, how much protein do you need per day? How many meals can you realistically eat, and divide it pretty much evenly throughout your day. You can throw in a snack here and there, but for the most part, that should be how you set up your day. And then if you ideally can do a meal before and a meal after that contains protein, throughout your before your workout and after your workout, that's ideal. So I don't like giving like, oh, you needed to, because some people do this. They're like, I remember when I first started looking into the supplement industry, they're like, you need to take protein as soon as you wake up in the morning, and then you need to take it before after your workout, then you need to take it before you go to bed. Like, I'm never going to say that. Like, I think it's important to get protein throughout your day, but I would never be like, you have to even drink protein powder and you have to get it at specific times. It just depends on the person.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I think the most important thing is just hitting your macronutrient goals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when the day's all said and done, it's like, did you hit your protein, your fats, your carbs? That to me is more important than always the timing of it. So, but to make it easier to do that is what we're saying, is to spread out your meals a little bit and kind of do that, spread out your protein throughout the day. Plus, like we said, there's a lot of benefits to that as far as just keeping you full and satisfied, and hopefully keeping the like the binge eating down or any cravings or anything like that, because it'll keep you full longer.
Also, I do want to mention on this topic is, some people ask like, how many protein powder servings per day can I have? I don't know if there's really a limit, but it really depends on how much protein you have per day. So if you're a smaller person and you're not eating as much protein, I mean, whether you're smaller or bigger, whatever, doesn't really matter. You should try to get the most of your protein through whole food. So the shakes really come into play when you're, low on your intake for the day, or maybe you always have a post-workout protein shake, that's fine, but limit it to like, 1, 2, 3 scoops a day, depending on for me, I limit myself to 1 scoop per day, but Dean might take 2 scoops at a time. So just because he needs higher protein. So, but for the most part, try to get most of your protein in your whole food, because that helps with other nutrients, satiety, other things. There's a lot more to food than just how much protein calories it has.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, a lot of times I'll always try to get mostly from food, or it's just like, the great thing about having some on hand is just like we said too, it's like there's sometimes where I don't feel like an appetite, or I don't feel like making a whole meal or something or whatever. Maybe I don't have something prepared. And so for me, it's like, I'll just grab protein powder real quick, make a shake. And now I know I've kept it very clean. Calories are pretty low, carbs or fats are low. And then I still get like 40, 50 grams of protein in by a quick shake that took literally 5 minutes to make. So to me, a lot of times it's a lifesaver just to grab something like that and use it.
Yeah.
I think you guys covered this, or maybe it was in the beginning of this webinar. Somebody asked, where's the question? Is there such thing as too much protein in your diet?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
it definitely is. Go ahead, Dean.
No, I was going to say, yeah. I mean, there comes a point where, yeah, I think you'll hear sometimes people say like damaging to like liver, kidneys, stuff like that. Like, I think you have a lot of protein to do that, which most people don't. I think most people have too less of protein, to be honest with you. The average person, I don't think, eats enough protein, probably. The only people you hear eating massive amounts of protein are usually people that are in like the bodybuilding world. So I think for the average person that just works out and all that, I bet you majority of the time they don't even have enough protein. So, but I again, I'm not a doctor, but I only play one. But I would say there's a point where you could have too much protein. Like you said, like if somebody's eating a ton of protein, let's say they're making 3 or 4 shakes a day, where there's something like, yeah, there's going to become a certain point to anything where there's too much.
Yeah.
What that is, I don't know, but it's going to also depend on the person as well. Like, you know what I mean? Like, some people could run into an issue of having so much protein where maybe somebody else has a completely different body, different lifestyle. Maybe they could have way more than, the last person. So, but I think with anything, you can always do too much.
Yeah, no, I think for the average person, if you're above I mean, 1.5 grams is like the cap for most people. Like if you're above 1.5 grams, if you do track your macros, your calories, you're probably pushing it too far on the protein, and you can dedicate those calories more towards carbs and fats, which will give you the energy you need. So is it harmful? Potentially, but I think it harms like your progress or your performance more than it harms like your actual health, if that makes sense. Like if you're just eating protein all day long, you have no fats, no carbs. I mean, you're just running yourself into a wall, whether you're cutting, maintaining, dieting, or bulking, doesn't really matter. So I think just track your protein intake, get a feel for where you're at, and try to hit that number, and don't freak out if you don't. Like if you're 10 grams below, that's all right. That's not really, I mean, the goal is just not to be, don't go crazy and go 2 grams per pound of body weight. There are some bodybuilders I do want to mention that do eat a lot more protein, but because of certain substances, their bodies can actually metabolize and use that protein more than others. So don't compare yourself to like the pro bodybuilders on stage or their diets.
Yeah, when you see somebody on the Olympia stage that's 250 and they're eating 450 grams of protein, don't compare yourself to an Olympia bodybuilder. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because like the full day of eatings are so popular on the YouTube. So like people love to watch them. They're like, yeah, I'm gonna eat that and I'm gonna look like that. That's not how it works.
And really like one of the last questions here was somebody was asking if we will be shipping protein to Canada.
I saw that question, and they do import some. I don't know if they import, so Canada claims farm fed homemade as foods, which I mean that's pretty simple because it's like, it's just like dairy and like, carbohydrates, stuff like that. So it makes sense. I know like our True North does import protein, so I would contact them and see kind of where they're at, maybe with their order quantity. Maybe they can bump it up if there is a demand. But I think because we're starting to get into Canada, we're not like full-fledged there yet. All their products take a lot longer because they need to go through different testing and different label requirements. But like farm fed homemade are good to go because they don't need that additional testing or licenses and things like that that Health Canada requires. So to my knowledge, they should have it. I'm not sure how much they have. That might depend on how much they're importing. So I don't see an issue with those two products if you want to reach out to them. Like I said, it's called True North. You can see their Instagram, their website, whatever it is. Maybe just hit them up and see where they're at with those two products. But other things, just know we're in the process of going through. It's not as simple as like, hey, just give me an invoice and I'll send you some product. For other things, it's a little more complicated. So, and then someone asked in here, other than pancakes with homemade or farm fed, work as a dump cake. I don't know what that is. Dump cake or some kind of dessert, like a mug cake.
Like a mug cake, probably.
They would definitely work. Yeah, for sure. I think homemade better because it has those different protein sources, and then it also has the added oat flour and sweet potato. I really don't like cooking with isolates. You can, of course, but like they tend to, like, cause Dean mentioned, like they're thinner. They don't hold up as well in different recipes. Like I tend to use farm fed in smoothies, Greek yogurt especially. Those are like my two main uses of farm fed, and then homemade I think is a lot better geared towards baking and stuff like that. And then someone said Amp Nutrition out of Ontario Stacks, both farm fed and homemade. So there you go. I mean, I think those are a little bit easier to get into Canada than other products. So
cool. Well, that was all the questions I had for you guys.
Jane, you got any more?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess, I mean, I think we covered pretty much everything you need to know about protein for the most part. Like I said, don't just drink protein shakes all day long and eat Pop-Tarts and hit your calories. You'll probably feel like shit, but hey, you could use protein powder here and there and it'll be just great for you. So
cool. Well, Dean, do you have anything else?
No, I'm just looking at see if there's any other questions. No, I mean, I think we covered it all.
Cool.
Just you get creative with it too. Like it's like some people aren't big shake people, like Heather said. It's like you can do so many things honestly with protein powder to throw them in anything.
I forgot you could do sometimes I do also farm fed and like oats, cream of rice, different things like that. You can mix it in. So like if something's really bland, especially things like Greek yogurt, find like interesting ways to flavor it without adding lots of like sugar and stuff like that, because then you could kill your appetite or kill your cravings, but still get something that's like higher protein and things like that. So yeah.
Cool. Well, that's all I had. And, as always, thank you, Dean. Thank you, Heather, for taking time out of your day. And today we went over protein. So next week is health and wellness. Is that correct, Heather?
Yeah.
Cool. So we'll be back here on Tuesday. And as always, everybody, thank you for joining. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out.
All right.
Thank you
See
guys.
you guys.
See ya.